Every mind control technique explained. Gaslighting. Gaslighting is a manipulation technique where the perpetrator makes a victim question their own reality or memories. It involves denying facts, events, or the victim's feelings to create doubt and confusion. The term comes from a 1938 play where a husband manipulates his wife into thinking she's going insane by dimming their gas-powered lights and denying he noticed any change. Love bombing. Love bombing is an attempt to influence a person by lavishing them with attention, affection, gifts, and praise in the early stages of a relationship. This intense display of affection is designed to make the target feel special and create a strong emotional bond quickly. Once the manipulator has gained the victim's trust and affection, they may exploit this connection for their own benefit. Guilt tripping. Guilt tripping involves making someone feel guilty to manipulate their behavior. The manipulator may use exaggerated or false accusations, reminders of past favors, or emotional appeals to induce feelings of guilt. This technique aims to make the target feel responsible for the manipulator's happiness or well-being, leading them to comply with requests or demands. Fear-mongering. Fear-mongering is the deliberate use of fear-based tactics to influence opinions and behavior. This technique involves exaggerating threats, creating worst-case scenarios, or spreading alarming information to generate anxiety and panic. By playing on people's fears, manipulators can guide their targets towards specific actions or beliefs. Isolation. Isolation is a control tactic where the manipulator gradually separates the victim from their support network of friends, family, and other social connections. This isolation makes the victim more dependent on the manipulator and less likely to seek help or alternative perspectives. It often involves criticizing the victim's relationships, creating conflicts, or demanding exclusive attention. Intermittent reinforcement. Intermittent reinforcement is a psychological technique where rewards or positive responses are given inconsistently and unpredictably. This creates a powerful effect on behavior, as the target becomes conditioned to keep seeking approval or rewards, even when they are infrequent. In manipulative relationships, this can manifest as alternating between affection and coldness, keeping the victim constantly trying to please the manipulator. Negging. Negging is a manipulation tactic often used in dating contexts, where the manipulator gives backhanded compliments or makes subtle insults to undermine the target's confidence. The aim is to make the target seek the manipulator's approval and validation. For example, saying, "You're pretty smart for someone who didn't go to college," combines a compliment with an insult, potentially making the target feel both flattered and insecure. Mirroring. Mirroring, also known as mimicry, involves copying someone's body language, speech patterns, or interests to build rapport and trust. While mirroring can occur naturally in positive relationships, manipulators may use it deliberately to create a false sense of connection. By appearing similar to their target, they can more easily influence their thoughts and actions. Emotional blackmail. Emotional blackmail is a form of manipulation where the perpetrator uses fear, obligation, or guilt, often referred to as fog, to pressure someone into doing what they want. This might involve threats to end a relationship, withhold affection, or cause harm to themselves if their demands aren't met. The goal is to exploit the target's emotional attachments and sense of responsibility. Scarcity principle. The scarcity principle is a psychological tactic that exploits the human tendency to value things that are rare or in limited supply. Manipulators may create artificial scarcity or deadlines to pressure targets into making quick decisions. This technique is often used in sales, only 3 left in stock, but can also be applied in personal relationships to create a sense of urgency or exclusivity. Foot in the door technique. The foot in the door technique involves making a small request that's likely to be accepted, followed by increasingly larger requests. Once a person agrees to a small favor, they're more likely to comply with bigger ones to maintain consistency in their behavior. This gradual approach can lead people to agree to things they might otherwise refuse if asked directly. Door in the face technique. The door in the face technique is the opposite of the foot in the door approach. It involves making an initial, unreasonably large request that's likely to be refused, followed by a smaller, more reasonable request. After rejecting the first request, people often feel compelled to agree to the second one out of a sense of compromise or guilt. This technique exploits the natural human tendency to reciprocate concessions. Bandwagon effect. The bandwagon effect is a psychological phenomenon where people do something primarily because others are doing it. Manipulators exploit this by creating the illusion that a particular belief or action is widely accepted or popular. This can pressure individuals to conform to avoid feeling left out or to gain social approval. It's often used in advertising, 9 out of 10 dentists recommend, and political campaigns. Social proof. Social proof is a psychological phenomenon where people look to others' actions to determine their own behavior, especially in uncertain situations. Manipulators can use this by creating the appearance that others are behaving in a certain way, encouraging targets to follow suit. This can be done through testimonials, staged crowds, or manufactured trends. Authority. The authority principle involves leveraging the human tendency to obey authority figures. Manipulators may present themselves as experts, use titles, or dress in ways that suggest authority to increase their influence. This technique exploits the societal conditioning to respect and follow those perceived as having superior knowledge or power. Scapegoating. Scapegoating is the practice of blaming a person or group for problems not entirely caused by them. Manipulators use this to deflect responsibility, unite people against a common enemy, or justify their actions. By focusing blame on an often marginalized or vulnerable group, manipulators can distract from their own faults or agenda. Information overload. Information overload is a tactic where manipulators overwhelm their targets with excessive data, making it difficult to process and evaluate the information critically. This can lead to confusion, decision paralysis, or acceptance of the manipulator's interpretation of the data. It's often used in conjunction with time pressure to force quick, poorly thought out decisions. Forced teaming. Forced teaming is a technique where the manipulator attempts to create a sense of shared purpose or experience with the target, often using language like we or us to foster a false sense of connection. This artificial bonding can make the target more likely to trust and cooperate with the manipulator, even when their interests aren't truly aligned. Projection. Projection is a defense mechanism where someone attributes their own unacceptable thoughts, feelings, or behaviors to others. Manipulators may use this to deflect criticism or avoid taking responsibility for their actions. By accusing others of their own faults, they can create confusion and shift blame away from themselves. Triangulation. Triangulation is a manipulation tactic where a person brings a third party into a conflictual situation, either to reinforce their position or to create jealousy and insecurity. This can involve comparing the target unfavorably to others, discussing private matters with outsiders, or using go-betweens to communicate. The goal is often to destabilize relationships and maintain control. Weaponized incompetence. Weaponized incompetence, also known as strategic incompetence, is a manipulation tactic where someone pretends to be incapable of performing certain tasks to avoid responsibility. By consistently performing poorly at specific chores or duties, they train others to stop asking them to do these things. This can be used to unfairly distribute labor in relationships or workplaces. False dichotomy. A false dichotomy, also called black and white thinking, is a logical fallacy where only two options are presented, when in reality there are more possibilities. Manipulators use this to limit perceived choices and force their target into a specific decision. By oversimplifying complex situations, they can guide people towards their preferred outcome while making alternatives seem unreasonable. Normalization. Normalization is the gradual process of making something that is unacceptable seem normal or acceptable. Manipulators use this technique to slowly introduce and escalate problematic behaviors or ideas, making them seem less extreme over time. This can lead targets to accept situations or treatment they would otherwise reject. Charm offensive. A charm offensive is a concentrated attempt to gain favor or influence through charisma, flattery, and attentiveness. While not inherently manipulative, it can be used as a technique to disarm targets and make them more susceptible to influence. The manipulator presents an extremely likable persona to lower the target's defenses and build trust quickly. Minimization. Minimization is a manipulation tactic where the significance of an event, thought, or feeling is downplayed or dismissed. This can be used to trivialize the concerns or experiences of others, making them doubt their own perceptions or feel guilty for having strong reactions. It's often employed to avoid taking responsibility for harmful actions or to maintain control in a relationship. Selective attention. Selective attention is the tendency to focus on certain aspects of a situation while ignoring others. Manipulators can exploit this by consistently highlighting information that supports their narrative while downplaying or ignoring contradictory evidence. This can shape the target's perception of reality and guide their decision-making process.